Hello, Algebra 2 folks, and welcome to Solving Rational Equations. These are fraction equations. What does an equation have that we haven't been working with lately? An equal sign. So you're going to see an equal sign, and today specifically, you're going to see two fractions with an equal sign in between them. That's called a proportion. So we're going to be solving proportions today, just like you did in geometry. You need your notes, you need a pencil and a calculator. So let's talk about what you did in geometry with proportions. So we have these two shapes and they are similar. And if I wanted to find the values of x and y, I would set up a proportion. Okay? So 6 is to x as 4 is to 6. So this is the proportion that I would use for these two similar triangles. And then I would cross multiply 4 times x, 4x, 6 times 6, 36, divide by 4, and I would get x equals 9. Now if I wanted to find y, I would say 8 is to y as 4 is to 6. And again, I would cross multiply 48 equals 4y, divide by 4, y would equal 12. Okay, so that's how we did proportions in geometry. Now our proportions are going to get a little bit trickier now. We're not going to just have an x, we might have an x plus 2. We might have a whole bunch of, x's, and we just have to be able to cross multiply appropriately, solve for that variable, and then always check our solution. So here we go. This would be one that you would have done in Algebra 1. X times 9, that's 9x. 3 times x plus 2. You want to make sure that you multiply everything by 3. So this would be 3x plus 6 equals 9x. Subtract 3x. And we would get 6 equals 6x, x equals 1. And then what you would do is you would plug 1 back in for x and verify that it worked. So 3 over 1, is that the same as 9 over 3? Well, 9 over 3 is the same as 3 over 1. So does 3 over 1 equal 3 over 1? You checked it. Now that would have been an Algebra 1 problem. Now let's talk about some of the ones that would be Algebra 2 type problems. So here's example number 2. Make sure you're putting these in your notes. Okay, so this would say take 3 times 2x plus 4, and that will equal these two multiplied together. Now be careful, because a lot of times we just take the x times the x and the 2 times the 3. But what that means is you have a binomial times another binomial, and remember you have to double distribute there. So over here it would be single distributing. So it'd be 6x plus 12 equals double distribute x squared minus 3x plus 2x minus 6. And now what makes this an Algebra 2 type problem is I have an x squared, which means I have a quadratic, which means in order to solve a quadratic, I need to set equal to 0 and factor or use the quadratic formula. Okay, so I want to get everything to one side, subtract 6x from both sides. I get 12 equals x squared minus 7x minus 6, subtract the 12. X squared minus 7x minus 18 equals 0. And then how would we do that? We would either factor or use the quadratic formula. I'm going to use the AC method. 2 factors of 18 that make -7 would be x minus 9 and x plus 2. And then my solutions would be set both of these equal to 0, and I would get 9 and -2. Now you should always check your answer. So we're going to go ahead and put the 9 back in there and see if that works. 3 over 9 plus 2 is 11. Does that equal 9 minus 3 is 6? 9 times 2 is 18 plus 4 is 22. This reduces down into 3 11ths. 3 11ths equals 3 11ths. So the 9 works. Now we're going to plug in the negative 2. 3 over 0. We cannot have a 0 on the bottom. No 0 in the denominator, okay? So if we ever get a 0 in the denominator, it doesn't even matter if the other side gives me 3 over 0 or whatever it equals. They do not equal. So this would be called an extraneous solution, and we would X it out. So the only answer that works for this problem is the 9. Okay, let's try another one. Two fractions that equal to each other, proportion again. We have 4 times x plus 5, and we have x plus 1 times x minus 1. Okay, single distribute, 4x plus 20. Double distribute, x squared plus 1x minus 1x minus 1. Those cancel. We're left with 4x plus 20 equals x squared minus 1. Again, this is an x squared. We want to either factor, set it equal to 0, and either factor, use the quadratic formula. So we're going to subtract 4x and 20 from both sides. We get 0 equals x squared minus 4x minus 21. Two factors of negative 21 that make negative 4 would be negative 7 and a positive 3, so x minus 7 and x plus 3. We would set them equal to 0, and we would get 7 and negative 3. And then we would check both. So 4 over 8, is that equal to 6 over 12? 4 over 8 would be 1/2, 6 over 12 would be 1/2, that checks. Then if I do negative 3, 4 over negative 2 is the same as negative 4 over 2. That would be negative 2, that would be negative 2, that checks. So both of these answers would work. So today we are just solving proportions using cross multiplication and finding the values of x and then verifying if they work or don't work by checking our solutions. All right, thanks for taking good notes, and we will be back tomorrow to practice some more.